Hey everybody, it's Abandoned Brian. We're here today at the abandoned ruins of the W.D. Byron Son leather tannery just outside of Williamsport, Maryland. This was once a booming industry supporting much of the town of Williamsport. Built in 1897, just outside of Williamsport, Maryland, along the Conacajig Creek. They produced high-quality fine leather for companies like Ford, GM, Toyota, and BMW. The plant operated for over 100 years and at times employed over 1,000 workers. However, the company certainly faced its share of difficulties throughout its life. In 1903, a lightning strike caused a devastating fire, causing significant damage to several of the buildings, as well as a significant amount of the stock. The company also faced its share of environmental issues. The leather-making industry overall is not an environmentally friendly process. They use large amounts of harsh chemicals to remove the hair and fat from the animal hides. The spent chemicals would then go through a water treatment plant before being released into the Conacajig Creek. The company was responsible for testing the liquid before they would release it into the waters, and they had to keep records, but it certainly doesn't seem like the numbers were always correct. To me, it seems like the numbers were fudged more often than not, as the Potomac River, well, let's just say it was in really bad shape for a while. The company would often get fines from the government coming in, testing the waters, finding pollution, and linking it back to the tannery. The most recent was in 1988 when the plant made headlines for being one of the 4 biggest polluters in Washington County, Maryland. In the early 90s, there was a big push to make companies throughout the country become more environmentally friendly. Apparently, these rules and regulations were fairly difficult for the tanning industry. In 2005, the Williamsport Tannery closed its doors for good and moved its operation to another country with less stringent environmental safety standards. After 2005, the property changed hands, and for me, I've had a lot of problems finding out exactly who owned what when. The precise details are sort of unclear to me. But what I do know is this. A few years after closing, a construction crew arrived and began to dismantle and salvage much of the facility. Right here was in the main part of the building. Up in the attic, there was several pieces of this equipment. There's old trophies and just stuff I'm sure they didn't really know what to do with. I am curious as to what these pieces of equipment are. If anyone knows anything about these things and can tell me what they are and what they do, please leave a comment down below. There's several pieces of equipment in this upstairs area. The construction crew worked for about a year, I want to say, removing the metal roofing and the metal beams. There was a lot of old wooden beams from 100 years ago. This place was massive. It was 17 acres under roof with a total facility of 31-acre property site. And they did take a lot of stuff out of this place before the construction / demolition ended. This would have been the main office, probably the plant manager, if you will, or possibly CEO. This office is gorgeous. All oak. It's just so beautiful when you're here. And this was probably built 100 years ago when the plant was first built. You can see the weeds and everything coming in. It's pretty crazy. Such a beautiful, historic building, just going to waste, rotting away. Anyway, at some point in time, the property was purchased by an investor group out of Bethesda, Maryland, and their intention was to redevelop the site. However, things began to fall apart for the investors pretty quick. Just to give you a sense of how big this place was, where I am standing now would have all been under roof. The building in front right here would have connected to the buildings behind me. The smokestack right here that bears the Byron name would have been almost in the center of the building. This place was massive. It would have connected all the way down to the end of that building. This is an awesome 360 view if you could imagine how massive the place was when it was under roof. Now, because this place was outside of the city of Williamsport and on the opposite side of the Conacajig Creek, they actually had their own sewage treatment plant. However, the permit to operate the plant had expired, and the county will not reissue this permit unless the plant is completely rebuilt and updated. The other alternative would be to hook sewage to the town of Williamsport, but this causes its own environmental problems, as the sewage would need to cross the Conacajig Creek, and a lift station would be required in order to pump the sewage up into the town of Williamsport. The electrical power also caused problems. When the facility closed in 2005, the electric was shut off and the power cables were pulled, leaving the site without electric. Plans to redevelop this site just weren't panning out, and eventually the investors decided to put the property on the market, and it was listed for $8 million by xrealty.net. In June of 2016, the property did sell, but it was not sold by xrealty.net. Instead, it was sold at a public tax auction. The property sold for $15,889.57.
889.57.
and the deed was transferred in late 2017. That's right, the current owner purchased this property for approximately $512 per acre. $512 an acre in an area where property typically sells for $25,000 an acre may seem like a really awesome deal. But keep in mind, the condition of this facility could be considered extremely dangerous. The fence that once surrounded the property is now falling down in so many places. There are areas where people have come and cut holes in the fence, other areas where trees have knocked the fence down or pulled the fence up, making it easily accessible. Once inside the facility, there are a number of these tanks like you see right here, and these tanks are probably 15 feet deep, full of liquid, and if someone were to fall into one of these, there is no way for you to climb out. No ladders. Even the few tanks that have pipes in them, the pipes do not go completely to the top. And screaming would probably not do anything, as the noise in the area would just drown you out. This is a huge concern to the local residents. The fear of one of their children possibly falling in these tanks and drowning. Just horrible. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Bye.